Hey everybody, and welcome to another Diablo 3 video. If you want to skip from one section to the next, go ahead and check out the description below. It'll be the first thing you see. Today's all about spears. So what do you say we hunt some big game? So about the build, this was one of my most anticipated builds for a few different reasons. One is playing as a barbarian, you get a natural 30% melee damage reduction boost. And you might be wondering, okay, well why is that good when you're playing ranged? And that's a good question, but it is, trust me, I'll explain it later. Two, am I going to be able to compete with the other ranged classes like the Demon Hunter or the Wizard? Because they do monstrous damage. Maybe. We'll see. And number three, what sparked my curiosity about the build is, are we going to be able to play our way? And what I mean by that is, I didn't want to feel obligated to utilize the set and follow the provisions thereof so that we could fully dress our character from head to toe the way we wanted, kind of like Path of Exile, but less convoluted. And I wanted the build to revolve around ice because I feel like cold gear, skills, and gems are underutilized, kind of like the Ice Blink gem, Legendary gem, for example. And when it comes to the playstyle, I wanted to go for Saboteur/Utility, which is another way of saying I wanted to be able to play with friends, debilitate the enemy so my friends did more damage, because that's what sounded like fun. The harsh reality is, this build, there was a lot of love and hate. It took a couple of days to throw together, and we will in fact be using a set because Blizzard made us a set just for this. But the good news is, we figured it out, so before we tear things up, let's go ahead and cover the layout. And as for the layout, we have greater rifts, gear, legendary gems, skills, Kanai's cube passives, and we are done. Now let's go get our trophy. Come on. Did it for the wings. Those wings.
I like that boulder. That is a nice boulder.
As for the gear, we'll be rocking the full 6-piece Raekor set, starting with the gloves, the shoulders, the helmet, the chest plate, the pants, and the boots. As far as the belt goes, we decided to go with Pride of Cassius for two reasons: to increase maximum fury and to extend the duration of your Ignore Pain ability an additional 6 seconds. You really want to maximize this, and it does range between 4 and 6 seconds. We'll talk more about it in the skill section. As far as the wrist guards go, we decided to go with Skular Salvation for the ability. Increase the damage of Ancient Spear up to 200%. It does range between 150 and 200%. I got lucky, 198, and it's Ancient. If your Ancient Spear Boulder Toss hits 5 or fewer enemies, the damage is increased an additional 100%, which is pretty sweet. Now, as far as the jewelry goes, we decided to go with Bastions of Will, a very powerful set comprised of 2 rings, Focus and Restraint. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Restraint ring on my right side. The 2-piece basically works like this. As long as you have a resource spending or resource generating ability being used, you get an additional 50% flat damage. If you use them in tandem, you get an additional 100% increased flat damage. That kind of burst damage is insane, especially if it only takes seconds to get going, and you could just run with this all day. So that's the Restraint ring. The Focus doesn't look much different, but for the sake of of the video, that's what it looks like. And as for the amulet, we opted to go with a Hellfire amulet. Provided that the stats were decent and the ability didn't suck, where could you go wrong? But this was like too perfect, for real. Not only are the stats amazing, but Relentless is major, not only for the build, but also for the Raekor set. And here's how it works. Whenever you dip below 35% life, you get 50% damage reduction, which keeps you alive. It complements the Raekor 4-piece bonus. For every 1% life you're missing, the damage of your Ancient Spear is increased 2%, which is crazy. And what I'm getting at is, if you're missing 50% life, you're already dealing an additional 100% Ancient Spear damage. So if you dip below 35% life, you are snowballing monstrous damage. Boy, I tell you, you're gonna wipe people off the map. I was just really excited about it. And for the weapons, in the main hand, we opted to go with the 300 spear, and in the offhand, we opted to go with the Arreat's Law. Now, I know I brushed through that pretty quick, and I want to be able to sum it up and give you the gist of what's going on so that when I read it later, everyone's going to understand what's going on, because there's a lot to read and there's a lot to unpack. So the gist of it is increased damage, increased fury generation, increased attack speed, and increasing your fury cap to maximize your damage output, because that's what the build is. Raising your fury cap so that when you do the boulder toss, you can maximize your damage output based on distance and missing life. Sounds pretty sweet. My only nitpick is because the spears don't count as mighty weapons, you can't add fury to them at the mystic to increase and maximize that damage. Not a big deal, but still kind of a ugh. Anyway, from left to right, starting with the main hand, we have the 300 spear. Increases the damage of weapon thrown Ancient Seer by up to 200%. It does range between 150 and 200%. And the attack speed of weapon throw, which is your primary ability for generating resource, is increased 200%. On the right side, offhand, Arreat's Law. Weapon thrown Ancient Spear, once again, will deal up to an additional 200% increased damage. It ranges between 150 and 200%. Weapon throw generated up to 50 additional fury based on the distance of the enemy hit. The generated fury can go above the maximum cap by 200 fury, and that's amazing for damage output, because when we look at our fury cap of 162, you basically add 200 for a total of 362. And for the final ability on Arreat's Law, it says Ancient Spear refunds up to 50 fury based on the distance of the enemy hit, and resets your fury cap to the base maximum. I don't know why it would reset, because you generate so fast. Like in a few seconds, you already have max fury again, even at 362. But anyway, that basically covers up the gear. Let's go ahead and knock out the gems. And as for those legendary gems, to kick things off, we have Bane of the Trapped, increasing damage against enemies under the effects of control and pairing effects by over 50%, which is insane. It's also why we're not using Bane of the Stricken. It just takes too long to amount to anything substantial, and to be frank, Greater Rift level 115, we can still knock the Rift Guardian out pretty easily, even without it. So this gem's actually going to get more attention than you think. Gain an aura that reduces the movement speed of enemies within 15 yards by 30%. It's amazing because we're charging into enemies constantly. Additionally, if your mercenary is using the Court of Shurma, there's a chance on hit to create a chaos field that will blind slow the enemy for up to 4 seconds. We have a couple abilities on the hotbar, such as Threatening Shot, that will weaken and slow the enemy up to 15 seconds. If you want to isolate the Rift Guardians or the elite groups and just kind of hop in and out while Greater Rift pushing. And we have Furious Charge, so every time you charge the enemy, you will freeze and immobilize the enemy for up to 2.5 seconds. Because of the 4-piece bonus where you get every rune, you also get the freeze rune. So we can really capitalize on this gem. Again, it's going to get a lot more play than you think. The next gem we decided to go for is Zai Stone of Vengeance, increasing the damage output based on the distance you are from the enemy. So as long as we're 50 yards away, we will maximize our damage output. Don't worry, I'll put a template on the screen to give you an idea how far you need to be away. And additionally, 20% chance on hit to stun the enemy for 1 second, which is also amazing and supports Bane of the Trapped. And for the third gem, we decided to go with Esoteric Alteration. Gain 60% non-physical damage reduction while below 50%, and your resistances to the elements are increased 75%. Note, it's not your resistances against the elements are increased 75% as much as your current resistances are increased 75%. I know it sounds a little confusing, but I feel like now that I said it out loud, you get what I'm saying. And I'm telling you right now, if you don't have this gem, you're dead. And I get that part of the build is to take hits so that you can maximize your damage, but I'm telling you right now, if you're going to Greater Rift push and you're not using this gem, you're done. So now that we covered the legendary gems, let's go ahead and knock out the skills. And as far as the skills go, beginning with the left click, we have Weapon Throw with Ricochet. We did this for 2 reasons, Fury Generation and activating our legendary gems. Taking a closer look when it comes to Fury Generation, every time you hit an enemy, you generate Fury. When it ricochets to enemies within 20 yards, you gain additional Fury on top of that. And because we have Arreat's Law, we also get the ability, which states, Weapon Throw now generates up to 50 additional Fury based on the distance of the enemy hit, and it pushes the Fury cap past 200. So as long as you're charging the enemy, which generates Fury, using the primary ability Weapon Throw, which generates Fury, and you have Arreat's Law equipped to generate additional Fury on top of that, there's literally no reason that over the next 2 to 3 seconds, you'll have anything but maxed out your Fury even past the 200 cap. It's a beautiful thing. And as far as the gems go, 20% chance on hit to stun the enemy for 1 second, which gives you an additional 50% damage boost to enemies using Bane of the Trapped. Again, a beautiful thing. And as for the right click, we decided to go with Ancient Spear with Boulder Toss. Now this is going to be where all of your damage comes from. Period. Throw a giant boulder that expends all remaining Fury to deal 20% weapon damage for every point of Fury expended to enemies within 9 yards of the impact location. Wow, that is a mouthful. But yes, this is where all of your damage is coming from, and what it's basically saying is you take your maximum Fury, 362, right? As long as we have Arreat's Law to push our Fury cap by 200, 362 multiplied by 20% should give you an initial starting ground of what your damage burst is like using Ancient Spear. Now include all the damage bonus from your gear. For example, the 6-piece bonus of the Raekor set says Ancient Spear damage boost increase of 5500%. You're going to include the Kanai's Cube passives, and then you're going to include the remainder of the skills and the abilities that we're using. This is why our damage is off the charts. Now, I do have a couple of pet peeves. I do want to bring them up real quick. One is our weapons are spears. They're not mighty weapons, so we're already missing a total of 24 of maximum Fury. Next up, we don't have an additional passive slot down here where you can see these 4, and for the amulet, I was going to use Animosity because it increases your maximum Fury by 20, so already we're missing a total of 44 maximum Fury for damage output. But here's what I want you to take from this. So flat damage will always beat out weapon damage, no contest. So even though we're missing 44 maximum Fury, which is like 880% weapon damage, even though it sounds high compared to flat damage, it's really not. The reason I'm sharing is so that you feel a little bit more comfortable about the route I chose to go. And for the next ability, we decided to go with Threatening Shout with Intimidate. So this is for Greater Rift pushing, and it's mainly to target the elites and the Rift Guardians, because if you can't kill them right away, hopefully over the course of the next 15 seconds of this debilitating shout, you'll be able to whittle them down to nothing. For the next ability, we decided to go with Furious Charge for mobility with the Merciless Assault rune, which doesn't matter because we have the Raekor set, and because we have the Raekor set, we are going to be charging all day long. Next ability, we decided to go with Wrath of the Berserker with Insanity. This is for damage. And for the last ability on the hotbar, we decided to go with Ignore Pain with the Ironhide rune. Okay, so Ignore Pain is for Greater Rift pushing as well, that when you take the heavy hits, you'll be able to survive and maximize your damage. Ironhide is to extend the duration of. This is also why we have the Pride of Cassius belt to extend the duration of, not including the cooldown reduction we already have, because the Ignore Pain ability has an abnormally long cooldown as it is at 30 seconds. So, you know, when you're Greater Rift pushing, you basically want this up as much as possible. So let's go ahead and move on over to the passive skills at the bottom. We have Boon of Bolcathos to reduce the cooldown of Wrath of Berserker. The next ability we decided to go with is No Escape. Increase the damage of Weapon Throw and Ancient Spear by 30% as long as you are more than 15 yards away from the enemy. We have Rampage in slot number 3, increasing strength by 25% as long as you continue to kill enemies in less than 8 seconds, of course. And for the last slot, we have Berserker Rage. You deal 25% additional damage while near maximum Fury. A lot of people ask, what's near maximum Fury? If you look it up online, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's 95% Fury. No less in order for this to take effect. And don't forget about the ability we have in the Amulet, Relentless. Let's actually go ahead and take a quick look at that just so you guys are aware. While below 34% life, all skills cause 50% less Fury, life per Fury spent is doubled, and all damage taken is reduced 50%. Massive. You need this. Irreplaceable. Don't forget it. Don't. So that basically covers the skills. Let's go ahead and knock out the Kanai's Cube passives. And finally, here we are with the Kanai's Cube passives, and all we gotta do is knock out one weapon, armor, and jewelry slot, and we are done, and I can go to bed. So to kick things off on the far left, we decided to go with Messerschmitt's Reaver. Reduce the remaining cooldown of one of your skills by 1 second when you slay an enemy. Now this is really cool, I don't want to disregard this, but I did consider the possibility of an alternative for damage output. And then I had to ask myself, well, what am I really competing with when it comes to Wrath of the Berserker? Would it be possible? Echoing Fury, Thunder Fury, Standoff, Furnace, Maximus with fire chains. But anyway, to be frank, I couldn't find anything to compete with it because what you're competing with is 10% critical hit, 25% attack speed, 20% dodge chance, 20% movement speed, and an additional 50% damage boost. Not only that, but once the cooldown is done for Wrath, it's going to go to one of your other actions on the hotbar, such as Ignore Pain, which is great for Greater Rift pushing. So once again, we decided to go with Messerschmitt's Reaver. When it comes to the armor, we decided to go with Strong Arm Bracers. Enemy hit by your knockback suffer 30% increased damage for 6 seconds. So if we take a closer look at Furious Charge, rush forward, knocking back and dealing 600% weapon damage to enemies along your path. First part of the sentence, rush forward, knocking back. Tested and proven this actually works. 30% damage. flat damage, not weapon damage. So it's something I didn't want to pass up. I'd recommend you guys use as well. And as far as the jewelry slot goes, we decided to go with Band of Might. Now this is a staple. You're not going to get past this with any build because of the survivability. Casting Furious Charge, Ground Stop, or Leap will allow you to take 80% damage reduction for 8 seconds. 8 seconds is already insane. 80% is off the charts. So, I mean, that covers the Kanai's Q passes. Boom. Alrighty guys, that concludes the video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. You know that I appreciate it. If you did like the build, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Obviously, you don't have to. As long as you had fun, that's what these videos are really about. Maybe it gave you an idea of how you wanted to make your character, even if you don't play this exact build. Go out, have fun, live it up. Aside from that, if you want to see more content like this, please like and sub. Have a wonderful night, and God bless. Hey guys, real quick, just a couple of things I forgot to mention during the video. That's my bad. So, first and foremost is I decided to go with the Enchantress as my follower because she has an ability called Prophetic Harmony. It's the second one, which will reduce the cooldown of your skills. Mine says 5.5% reduction. I want you to bear in mind, it's worth noting that none of the gear she's wearing has any intelligence, and that's what the cooldown is based on. So when you increase the intelligence, you will increase the cooldown reduction. It might be something worth looking into. I'm not too sure what your build is. And secondly, as far as the gear goes, I wanted to give you a visual idea of what she's wearing that benefits me for solo play. I'm not going to go ahead and go through the gear, but I will put it in the description. That's it. Peace.